You must swim up the glottis. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we have another tier ranking video. I know, very high effort, high brow. I thought that we would return to a very standard tradition of tier making videos. Today I thought we'd give another area of Guild Wars 2 a little bit of love, and this being raids. There are only 7 raids, so it's actually perfect for a tier ranking video because it's not a lot to get into. And I've played all the raids. However, as a disclaimer, I have not finished the final Wing 7. I've not killed Kadim, so I do have one minor disadvantage when we get to that area. But nevertheless, that's not going to stop me from putting my 2 cents into the ring. But let's go on with the video and kick things off with Wing 1. So we're here on the tier ranking list, and we have a couple categories. We are farmers, bum 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 bum, and then we also have flow from progressive. This is the middle tier. It's like solid, good, iconic, but we are farmers up there, of course, you know, ascending to descending categories. And then that's a gecko, Mary. I mean, it's a gecko. Well, I mean, it's not like bad, it's just there, you know? It's something that I can definitely respect and appreciate. Considering this video is going to be about the entire raid wing as a whole, it will be somewhat challenging for me because if we were to rank every single boss, that might be a different situation and maybe even a different video altogether. However, because I'm looking at the raid wing as a whole in terms of its final product, with the encounters, the boss fights, the difficulty, the intricacies of the mechanics, the music, everything, I'm taking everything into account, this might be a little bit more challenging for me. So first and foremost, we have Velgardi and Gorsuval and also Sabatha were all 3 bosses that had such interesting concepts and were so revolutionary to the game of Guild Wars 2 that I look back with such admiration for this raid. So for that alone, and many other reasons, I think Spirit Vale Wing 1, I mean, we are farmers, bum 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 bum. I really enjoyed this. Next, we have Wing 2 of Spirit Vale. Spirit Vale is very interesting because they all have the titles of Wing 1 of the Forsaken Thicket, but that was Spirit Vale. This is, actually, they all have different names. What is Wing 2? Okay, Spirit Vale, Salvation Pass, Bastion of the Penitent. Oh my god, this is so embarrassing. There was 2 raids. I don't even know the raid titles. This is so embarrassing. Oh my gosh. You think that I would have like committed these to memory by now, but I haven't. Okay. Next we have Wing 2. Wing 2 is Salvation Pass. And I also really enjoyed the entirety of the first raid because Forsaken Thicket, as it is 3 separate wings, it's considered to be one raid unit with an overarching story. And I really enjoyed that. I'm kind of sad that they kind of dropped that. I would have liked to have seen more of that. And also the similar location, you fleshed out that area of the world. It was very nice. Nevertheless, Wing 2, Salvation Pass. Now, Salvation Pass, this is where my previous discussion kind of comes into play. It's a little bit difficult because I really only think there are 2 bosses to this raid. Now, the second boss is the Bandit Encampment, the Bandit Hut, the Bandit Stronghold. And yes, you fight 3 separate bosses and there are multiple mechanics, but there isn't one core boss that really ties everything together that makes it feel like you are participating in a boss fight. It's more so just a very intense encounter with multiple bandit leaders that you have to take down. But nevertheless, I still enjoy it, but I think as a whole, this wing kind of does dip below that of the very first wing. But once again, I love Matthias. Sloth Azor is fine. I like that it was very condition-centric and forced you to take projectile reflection, so that was cool. But I think as a whole, Wing 2 for me, is it a Gecko Mary? I think that's a Gecko Mary. For me personally, para mí, spooky me, I really have to say that Wing 2 definitely fell much lower than first wing. Next we have Wing 3 of Forsaken Thicket. This is the Stronghold of the Faithful. But okay, flow from progressive or we are farmers. Once again, I think Wing 3 despite it also having its first boss more so be an encounter, where the bulk of the boss fight is really an escort quest. You're escorting Glenna from point A to point B, you're doing tower capture events, you're fighting off some wargs. While it can feel somewhat involved, it's just more so a long chore until you get to the door of the castle. And then that's when you finally have to fight McLeod the Silent. And his boss fight mechanics are, I mean, something that I would expect from an easy strike mission. It's not a lot. There's no real mechanics behind it other than a split phase that you kill the color that you're assigned, and that's really it. So for that reason, it does kind of lose a boss. Keep Construct is really good. Love that boss fight. I think it's a really strong, solid boss fight. And then we have Twisted Castle. I think that's the one thing that Wing 3 has edged over Wing 2. Wing 2 had its first boss, then an encounter, and then really a second boss. At least with Wing 3, there's the first encounter, there's the second boss, or the first boss with Keep Construct, and then there's a second encounter with the Twisted Castle, and then it ends with the final boss being Zera. And I think with the Twisted Castle and Zera compounding all of that, it really creates an interesting, intricate raid wing. So I think it's definitely above Wing 2. So for me, Zera, your flow from progressive. Can that be canon? Does Zera deal with auto insurance? If not, and then next we have Wing 4. Wing 4 is Bastion of the Penitent. We are farmers. Bum 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 bum. I love Wing 4. I think Wing 1 and Wing 4 are some of my favorite raids in Guild Wars 2. Karen is a really strong boss fight that really focuses on positioning, and it requires people to split from each other when in a normal group. And sometimes hard elite groups, you tend to just all stack together and you kind of ignore mechanics, but that's due to balancing issues with the absolute incredible potency of healing and support in this game that I think should have a very critical look at. But nevertheless, I think Karen is an interesting boss fight. Merced Overseer, while he isn't really doing anything, and I think Merced Overseer, I wouldn't even call it an encounter. It does really feel like a boss fight. I think more so than Wing 2 during the Bandit hideout, because there's a through line. There is a one core fundamental arena. There's one thing that you're doing. There's one boss fight that you are damaging, and you have to deal with the adds. Challenge mode as well also adds a little tick above everything else, because the challenge modes do change your perception and the way you approach these raids. And then of course we have the third boss, Samurag. Love Samurag. I actually think Samurag is probably the best raid boss that new players should start with. And then we have Deimos. It was a 4-boss raid. It was really strong, many different visuals, many different mechanics to balance, and a lot of different ways to attack it. I just realized there's not a lot of raids in Guild Wars 2. I was like, wow, I'm almost done with this video. Anyway, we have Wing 5, Hall of Chains. Wing 5. I think it's flow from progressive. Now, I'm not talking about the individual bosses. Now, if you were ranking bosses alone, I would say Doom would probably be up there. Even though I've never killed Doom, I have trained Doom, and I got him down to around 45-50%. And I think the boss fight is really good. It's really well executed. But as a raid wing whole, Desmina's boss fight I actually really like, because it's a tank and off-tank mechanic that is never really seen. They kind of complicated things with a sigil mechanic, but I guess they kind of had to, because taunt is such a non-condition in Guild Wars 2 that they couldn't rely on that. But if they did, that would be even more interesting. Desmina is nice. It has the River of Souls, which is one encounter, but then it has like a 3-boss fight situation. This is also kind of giving me Bandit Camp Hideout with Wing 2, because you're not fighting one particular boss. But that being said, they all have their separate arenas, and it feels more like a standalone encounter that you're doing with each boss that you're fighting, rather than you're kind of just like killing ads and protecting this cage type situation. Then of course we have Doom. So with this wing, yeah, there aren't 3 necessarily bosses. It's kind of like 2 core bosses and 2 encounters. And for that reason, I think it's fine. I think it's fun. But, you know, aside from Doom, I thought this was not as farmable for me. I wouldn't put it in the We Are Farmers, but I would definitely put it in the Flow from Progressive because it is a very well-structured raid. I mean, all these raids really are. It's more so just a matter of opinion at the end of the day. Wing 6. We have... No, this is the Key of Arashim. The Key of Arashim. No, it's Mithril Gambit. It's Mithril... Yeah, it's Mithril Gambit. Yes, it is. Okay, so this is Mithril Gambit. I think that Mithril Gambit is... Flow from Progressive. Is it We Are Farmers? I kind of think it's We Are Farmers. I don't think people give enough credit to Wing 6, or maybe they do, and I just haven't really been in, you know, the social circles that talk about it. But I personally really enjoyed Wing 6. I think the first boss fight is really good. The encounter of the puzzle where you're fighting the djinn in the room and you have to use your sand portal jackals, it gets use out of the mount system, which is a big plus. And then another encounter where you're going through the big mansion in the Mystic Forge, where you eventually get to the 2 Largos. The music alone is so good with the Largos fight. I think my favorite raid track to ever be put in the game is the Largos fight. It's so good. Also, the way that you have to split, it splits up the group. It creates a different dynamic rather than just a stack and smack type situation. So I really like that. And then, of course, we have Kadim. Kadim, great boss fight. Wonderful. I think We Are Farmers. I honestly don't play this raid a lot, and I feel like I should. Next, we have Key of Arashim. The Key of Arashim, I think, is just fun to say, A, but B, it is visually impressive with its area, and I think lore-wise, story-wise, I think it's really cool and a perfect raid for Path of Fire. It's very Jinn-centric. I mean, both Wing 6 and 7 are quite Jinn-centric with Kadim. But this one in particular, you get to kind of go back to the Key of Arashim where the Jinn are, restore the magic, restore the Jinn to kind of a more magically competent role. But in terms of the boss fights, Sabir and Adina are kind of they just feel like they're kind of there. They do feel more like filler bosses in a way. So just that part, I kind of feel like, I don't know if I want to put it's a Gecko Mary. It's not like bad, but I mean, Wing 2 isn't even bad. It's just like in the ranking of everything, how does this pair up? How do I feel? I also have not finished this Wing. I'm going to be fully transparent, so I can't really comment on the final fight. However, I have watched the final fight multiple times, and I do like that you have situations where there is more range aspect. I think that Guild Wars 2 needs to utilize their combat system more than they currently do, by giving you more incentive to be at range, to dodge, to focus ads, to heal, to single target heal, to remove boons, and to dodge. There's so many aspects of the combat that I feel like get lost in a lot of the raids because the stack and smack meta has been fortified for 10 years now, and the mechanics haven't really pushed it out of that meta. Wing 7, it was the final raid wing that we've gotten for almost 1,000 days. So, I think it's mid-tier. I don't think it's on the same, like, it's fine for Wing 2. I think it's just good. Honestly, this is how I rank it. Like, these are my favorite. These are really good. And these are just, they're good, they're competent, and, you know, they're a raid that you can do. I think that's how I would rank it. So for We Are Farmers, the one that I could really farm, it'd be Wing 1, Wing 4, Wing 6, Flow from Progressive. I'm more than happy doing them. I really enjoy them. I'd probably say Wing 3, Wing 5, and then Wing 7, I could say. And then one that I'm not always super happy to do, though I do love Matthias, Wing 2. I'd probably say Wing 2. All right, everyone, that was my tier list for all the current raids in Guild Wars 2. I really realized that there's not a lot of raids, and it's very sad. But hopefully more strike missions and more people focusing on PvE. Hopefully those strike missions feel like raid bosses, because you don't have to do the raid, you just have to focus on the raid boss. I really hope that the normal strike missions are raid worthy and the challenge modes are challenge mode raid worthy. Speaking of raids, I raid with my guild and on my Discord. If you are interested in raiding, you can check out the Discord link below. And every Saturday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, we do raids. Love to see you there. Thank you all for coming. Subscribe, comment, share, like, all that stuff. And if you'd like to help support the channel, I have a Patreon with our early access to videos, exclusive videos, But thank you ever so much for coming, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.